Hello, Sagittarius. I'm Jen with Timeline Tarot, and this is your tarot card for the week of November 9th, 2025. I've set the intention of this reading to be for Sun, Moon, Rising, as well as Venus. So if you have Sagittarius in any of those placements, odds are there's a little message in this reading for you. Also, keep in mind that this is a collective general reading. It is not individualized nor personalized to you. Messages may come through today that do not fully resonate, and if that happens, don't get upset. It just means that one message is meant for someone else watching. So take what fits, how it fits, leave what doesn't, and be sure to check out your other placements. With all of that said, let's begin. Okay, Sag, so if you've never been here before, this is not what you don't see coming for the week ahead. I have already released those videos for all 12 signs. The Tarot Card of the Week reading is typically a question that Source wants us to consider, to go within, and to really go within and ponder it so we can come up with a decision or best course of action in regards to whatever the question is, so we can progress forward. So we don't get too stuck in a situation, environment, connection, maybe even a mindset that isn't, it isn't, I was going to say, isn't worth your time. Maybe for some of you, it's not worth your time. But what I wanted to say was no longer serves your highest good. By the way, that was the Seven of Cups that just came out of the deck. So tapping into the Sagittarius collective now for Sagittarius Sun, Moon, Rising, as well as Venus. What is the tarot card of the week for Sagittarius for the week of November 9th, 2025? What is their tarot card of the week? Let's get one more shuffle here for you, Saggy. Okay, thank you. Your tarot card of the week is the Six of Cups. What memories from the past are trying to get your attention? All right, Saggy. What memories from the past are trying to get your attention? For Sagittarius, Sun, Moon, Rising, as well as Venus. Why is the Six of Cups their tarot card for the week of November 9th, 2025? Why is this their tarot card of the week? Let's get one more shuffle here. Thank you. First card out, Sag, we have is the Four of Pentacles, followed by the Ten of Wands, the Three of Cups, and the Ace of Wands. At the bottom of the deck, you have the Eight of Wands, the Death card, and the Eight of Swords. And that leaves the Four of Cups, Six of Cups, to the King of Pentacles here at the bottom of the deck. So what memories from the past are trying to get your attention? So there's something here in regards to a situation, environment, or connection in your life that you stayed in for a long time. Four of Pentacles. It wasn't growing. It wasn't expanding. It offered you a level of stability or some degree of stability or security, but it was very burdensome on you. Like maybe you stayed in it longer than you should have. It seemed to be very difficult. Like regardless of how much you dug your heels in, you're like, I'm going to do this and I'm going to be successful with blank, whatever blank is. It's like that 10 of Wands to the Three of Cups. It was really difficult for you to achieve happiness with the situation, environment, or connection. And I think after that ended, because we're talking about the past, nothing current in your life. After that happened, I feel here like you were able to exit it and have a new beginning in something. So again, you left a situation, you had a new beginning in another. You left this relationship, you had a new beginning in another. But there's something now that we need to kind of go back, or at least that's the advice here from Source. You need to go back and revisit this, not in terms of reconnecting with that situation, environment, or connection, but thinking about it, because there's a memory here that I think somewhere along the way you forgot. So when you embarked on this new beginning and you moved forward with it, the Ace of Wands came in, the Eight of Wands, the Death card, you went towards it and you transformed your life by doing this, right? You started some new cycle here in your life. I feel like right now you're stuck. You're stuck in a situation, environment, or connection. And Source is saying this is very reminiscent or very familiar to something from the past. So tell me more about that situation, environment, or connection that Sagittarius found themselves in once upon a time, and that it was too burdensome or too heavy for them to achieve success or happiness in that situation, environment, or connection. What was that for Sagittarius? One more shuffle here. Thank you. The Two of Wands, the Three of Wands, and the Seven of Swords. Bottom of the deck, Queen of Wands. So whatever situation, environment, or connection that was, you chose to move in that direction, right? You were at a Y point. So let's just put this in terms of relationship. And it doesn't have to be like a romantic relationship, but I'm just going to use that as an example. In your past, you were involved in a romantic relationship that when you were at the Two of Wands and you're like, do I want to move forward and date this person or see where the relationship goes? You decided to say yes, and you moved towards that. And the Three of Wands. And then at some point in time in that connection, you encountered Seven of Swords. There was some level or degree of deception in that. And despite that level or degree of deception, you stood in that connection. You were like, nope, Four of Pentacles, I'm holding on. Ten of Wands, as difficult as it is, I want to see it through. And even though it became increasingly difficult for you to find happiness in that relationship or in that connection, you decided to persevere until eventually one day you couldn't. Queen of Wands, the Strength, and the Nine of Pentacles. So at some point you decided, no, I need to take the inspired action and gather all the strength and courage that I have within me to become Nine of Pentacles, single and independent and free of that person. And for some of you, maybe it was an ex-lover, could have been a parental figure. It could have even been a really bad boss or an unhealthy work environment. But I feel like there was a valuable lesson back there for you, that if you are in a situation, environment, or connection, and it becomes so difficult to achieve an ounce of happiness within it, that your time would be better spent moving in another direction, leaving that behind. So I think that's what that relationship or whatever this was for you was supposed to teach you or meant to teach you. It was meant to teach you that your time and your resources are valuable. And that although sometimes you like to go all in, right? You're at the poker table, you take all your chips, you're like, I'm going all in. At some point when you go all in and you lose, and then like you can start incurring debt, right? You start incurring debt because you want to continue the poker game because it's like, well, eventually I'll break even. And what often happens is we lose a lot of time at that poker table and we incur a lot of debt. So we leave depleted. We leave the poker table depleted and we never really break even on it. And so it ends up becoming a loss of resources or a loss of time, sometimes both for us. And I think that's what that was supposed to teach you back there, that when it becomes so increasingly difficult to draw an ounce of happiness from a particular situation, environment, or connection, that should be your cue to move on from it. Instead of digging your heels in and saying, no, I'm going to make this work. I think right now you're going through something similar. And it might be a little bit different. Maybe this was a relationship with a parent and it took you a long time to realize, ooh, this is really unhealthy and I need to cut this person off. And now this could be like a work situation. So I feel like the same lesson is repeating here, but maybe in a different situation, environment, or connection. This could have been with a parent. This is now maybe with a lover. Maybe that's with a lover. This has to do with your landlord. This could have been a past work situation. And now maybe this is friendship based. Tell me about that Eight of Swords. Because I feel like Source wants you to go back and think about the situation, environment, or connection that you're currently dealing with, now presently dealing with. And it's becoming increasingly burdensome for you to draw an ounce of happiness to it. Even though it's not exactly like the past situation, it's very similar. It's the same lesson repeating itself. So it's trying to draw your attention. Hey, remember the last time you did this with blank and you lost all that time or you lost all those resources? You're kind of doing it again. You're kind of doing it again. So tell me about that Eight of Swords here. What is Sagittarius currently dealing with, which is reminiscent or familiar of this past situation, environment, or connection? What is the current? What is the current energy there? One more shuffle. Thank you. The current energy. The Hanged Man, the Knight of Cups, and the Ten of Pentacles, bottom of the deck, Page of Wands. So you are presently in a situation, environment, or connection where long-term emotional happiness is getting really difficult to achieve or acquire or maintain. So you could be in a relationship right now, it's a romantic relationship. Let's say this was work related and you stayed in longer than you should have. You probably look back on that now with absolute clarity and say, oh my God, I should have left that job 6 months earlier, right? They were deceptive. They promised me raises or promotions. And you probably at the time thought, okay, I'm going to move towards this new job. Ace of Wands, right? Eight of Wands, I'm moving towards it. Death card, I'm transforming my financial life, my career life, moving in a, towards another job. And you probably thought to yourself, I'm never going to do that again. I'm never going to give so much of myself to a company that doesn't see my worth or over promises and under delivers. But now this is a romantic relationship and you're kind of doing the same thing. And I think that's what Source is trying to get your attention on. Remember when you said you would never do that at a work environment? Well, you're right, you haven't. But you're now doing it in a romantic relationship where happiness is eluding you. Long-term happiness, long-term sustainable happiness is eluding you here. Hangman to the Knight of Cups to the Ten of Pentacles. So again, not the same type of situation, but you're repeating the same habit, which doesn't serve you. Just like you wasted time in that and resources in that, you're now wasting time and resources in this. And for others of you, it's reversed. That was a romantic relationship, but now this is with a friend or this is with work. So again, I feel like they're two very different things, but the lesson is the same. Page of Wands, Five of Cups, and Nine of Swords. The lesson is the same. What is the lesson that Sagittarius is supposed to remember from that situation, environment, or connection and apply it to their current situation, environment, or connection? What was the lesson that Sagittarius was supposed to learn? What was the lesson that they were supposed to learn and apply to this? One more shuffle here. Thank you. The Six of Pentacles, the Ten of Swords, and the Hierophant. The lesson, the Hierophant, the spiritual lesson here was that there's supposed to be equal reciprocity. In a work environment, you bring your best to the table. You bring all of your skills and abilities, and therefore you should be paid adequately for them. In a friendship or in a platonic connection with a family member, you bring your best qualities. You bring love and you bring nurturance and loyalty. But you're supposed to receive that in return from that familial connection or that friend. In a romantic partnership, you bring unconditional love. You bring stability. You bring the devotion and investment of long-term commitment. You're supposed to receive that in return from the person you're in a romantic relationship with. And so the lesson was reciprocity and knowing from past experiences when to Ten of Swords, put a fork in it and end it when reciprocity is not given. Once reciprocity is a dish that's no longer served, you're supposed to get up from the table. Instead of, again, that poker table analogy, instead of putting more in and more in, or maybe even going into debt, trying to break even. It shouldn't be that difficult to break even in a situation, environment, or connection. And so that was the lesson that you were supposed to learn. So your question this week is to remember the last time you did that, even though it's a little bit different, remember how much time you lost and how much energy you lost and maybe even money that you lost in whatever that was. And realize you're doing the same thing now in some aspect of your life. And just like you walked away back then and had a new beginning elsewhere, whatever this is for you, it's time for you to walk away from it as well and move towards a new beginning elsewhere. Can we get 3 cards of advice here, please, for Sagittarius this week? 3 cards of advice here for Sagittarius. For Sagittarius, Sun, Moon, Rising, as well as Venus. One more shuffle here. Thank you. Your advice, Sag. King of Pentacles, Two of Cups, and the Star. When it comes to the ideal partnerships in your life, or I should say not ideal, all partnerships in your life. Two of Cups could be any partnership. You with a boss, you with a business partner, you with a client, you with your neighbors, right? You with your friends, your family members, and even your lover. Your advice here is that it needs to be grounded. Both people need to show up as the King of Pentacles or Queen of Pentacles. I'm investing in you, and therefore you need to invest in me. So there's a wound here that needs to be healed in the Sagittarius collective because you're repeating something again in a partnership. And again, whether it's professional, platonic, or romantic, you're repeating something that you did back then in respect to your pentacle investment, your time, your love, your money, your commitment. And so your advice here is to take a look at this week and compare it to something in your past when you said you would never do it again. You are doing it again. And so then how can you find a way now to put an end to this? If this is a work situation, this would be telling you now it's time to look for another job. If this is a connection in your life, it's time to put an end to that connection. Whatever this is, you're repeating it and it's no longer serving your highest good. Five of Wands, there's that Six of Cups card again, and the Emperor. It's time for you to boss up and move on from repeating this mistake or this lesson here from the past. It's time for you to learn it once and for all. That is what I have for you, Sagittarius. That is your tarot card for the week of November 9th, 2025. If you like that message, it resonated with you, you want to claim all or part of it, or maybe just found it to be helpful, please be sure to click like, share, and subscribe. Hype the video if you're able to do that. And until I read for you again, I am wishing you light, love, and peace.